The taste of birthday cake turned to ash in my mouth as I stood in our living room doorway, watching my parents methodically pack away their lives into neat, labeled boxes. My 21st birthday, and they couldn't even wait until after the celebration to drop their bomb. I'm Amelia, and this is the moment my family shattered. "You weren't supposed to be home for another hour," Mother said, not even looking up from the box she was taping shut. Her perfectly manicured nails gleamed as she smoothed down the packing tape with practiced efficiency. The salon finished early. My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. "What's happening?" Father emerged from their bedroom carrying another box. "We're moving to Singapore. The opportunity came up suddenly, and we had to act fast." "Singapore?" The word felt foreign on my tongue. "When?" "Tonight." Mother's voice carried that familiar clinical tone she used when delivering bad news to her patients. "Our flight leaves at midnight." I stepped further into the room, my new dress suddenly feeling too tight, too constraining. "But what about me?" They exchanged that look, the one they'd perfected over years of silent communication. Finally, Father set down his box and cleared his throat. "You're 21 now, Amelia. An adult. You've always been independent, and frankly, this is better for everyone." "Better?" The word came out as a whisper. "You've been a hindrance to our plans for years," Mother said, still focused on her packing. "We've put off this move 3 times already because of your various situations." My hands began to shake. "Situations? You mean my hospitalization after the car accident? My college graduation?" "Among other things." She finally looked up, her eyes cold and distant. "The truth is, we've outgrown this life, this town, this—" She waved her hand vaguely in my direction. "We need more." "More than your daughter?" My voice cracked. Father stepped forward, reaching for his wallet. "We're not completely abandoning you. There's enough in this account to cover 6 months of rent and expenses. By then, you should have figured out your next steps." The credit card he held out seemed to mock me. "You've been planning this. How long?" "Does it matter?" Mother interjected. "The decision is made. We've already signed the contracts, sold the house. The new owners take possession next week." I felt the room spinning. "Where am I supposed to go?" "You're a smart girl," Father said, dropping the card on a nearby box when I didn't take it. "You'll figure it out. You always do." "Maybe your grandmother will take you in," Mother added, her tone suggesting she'd already discussed this with Grandma Evelyn. "She's always been overly attached to you anyway." The carefully arranged flowers on the coffee table caught my eye, my birthday bouquet, delivered this morning with a card that read, "To our dearest daughter." The lies were everywhere, wrapped in pretty paper and false smiles. "I got into medical school," I said quietly. "I was going to tell you tonight at dinner. I got the acceptance letter yesterday." For the first time, Mother's movements faltered. Father's expression flickered with something, pride, regret, before smoothing back into careful neutrality. "That's wonderful," he said, but his eyes were already drifting back to the boxes. "You'll do well, I'm sure." "We need to finish packing," Mother added, effectively ending the conversation. "The movers will be here in an hour for the boxes we're shipping." I stood there, watching them resume their methodical dismantling of our family home, feeling like a ghost in my own life. The birthday dress I'd spent hours choosing suddenly felt like a costume, a child playing at being grown up while the adults made the real decisions. My phone buzzed in my purse. Probably Ethan, wondering why I wasn't at our meeting spot for the birthday dinner he'd planned. How could I tell him that while I was getting my hair done for our celebration, my parents were plotting their escape? I turned and walked out, leaving behind the credit card, the flowers, and the last remnants of my childhood illusions. They didn't call after me. They didn't even look up. In the driveway, I paused, keys in hand, and realized with startling clarity that this wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. They thought they were writing me out of their story, but really, they were just giving me the first page of my own. And revenge, I decided, would make one hell of a opening chapter. Grandma Evelyn's hands trembled as she set down her teacup. 3 days since my parents' departure, and the betrayal still hung thick in the air like smoke after a house fire. "They've been planning this for over a year," she said, sliding a stack of papers across her antique coffee table. "I found these when I was helping your mother organize her study last spring." The documents blurred before my eyes. Bank statements, property listings in Singapore, email correspondences dated months back. Each page revealed another carefully constructed step in their escape plan. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice cracked. "Would you have believed me?" Evelyn's eyes, so like my mother's but warmer, searched my face. "Karen, your mother. She's always been skilled at making others doubt their own perceptions." A memory surfaced. Me at 16, telling mother about catching father in a heated phone conversation with an unknown woman. She'd convinced me I'd misunderstood, that I was being dramatic. The woman turned out to be his Singapore business contact. "They've listed the house for sale months ago," I said, scanning a real estate contract, while I was still living there, while they were helping me plan for medical school. "Your acceptance letter," Evelyn said quietly. "Did you tell them?" "Yes." I laughed bitterly. Right before they walked out, Mother didn't even pause in her packing. The doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. Evelyn's housekeeper showed Aunt Lily in, her face pinched with concern. "I just got off the phone with Karen," she announced without preamble. "She's furious that you're staying with Mother instead of following their plan." "Their plan?" I echoed. "The apartment they arranged, the one the credit card was supposed to pay for." Lily's eyes narrowed. "They're saying you're being deliberately difficult." "Of course they are." I stood up, pacing the length of Evelyn's living room. "Heaven forbid their perfectly orchestrated abandonment doesn't go according to schedule." "Amelia," Evelyn's voice carried a warning note, "don't let bitterness poison you." Too late. The words tasted like metal in my mouth. "Did you know they've been transferring money to offshore accounts? It's all here in black and white. Years of planning, while I worked part-time jobs to avoid asking them for help with college expenses." Lily picked up one of the bank statements. "This can't be legal." "It probably isn't." Evelyn's hands clasped tightly in her lap, which is why I've already contacted my lawyer. I stopped pacing. "What?" "I'm changing my will," she said firmly. "Everything goes to you. They won't be able to touch it." "Mother, think carefully," Lily cautioned. "Karen won't take this well." Karen stopped being concerned about my wishes the day she decided to abandon her only child. Evelyn's voice carried steel beneath its softness. My phone buzzed. Ethan, again. I'd been avoiding his calls since that night, unsure how to explain that my perfectly curated family life had been a house of cards all along. "You should talk to him," Lily said gently. "He came by the house yesterday looking for you." "I can't." I swallowed hard. "Not yet." "Your parents' choices don't define you," Evelyn said, rising slowly from her chair. "But your response to them will." The doorbell rang again. This time Uncle Derek stood in the doorway, his expression grave. "They're selling everything," he said without greeting. "The house, the vacation property, even Karen's medical practice. Mark's already accepted a partnership position in Singapore." "How long have you known?" I demanded. His silence was answer enough. "Get out." My voice shook with fury. "All of you who knew, who watched them plan this and said nothing, get out." "Amelia?" Lily started, but Evelyn raised her hand. "Let her be," she said quietly. "She needs time." They filed out, leaving only Evelyn and me in the suddenly too quiet room. I picked up another document, a lease agreement for a luxury apartment in Singapore's most exclusive district. "They're going to regret this," I said, my voice steady for the first time in days. "I'm going to make sure of it." Evelyn touched my shoulder gently. "Revenge is a double-edged sword, dear one. Then I'll learn to bleed." I met her eyes in the mirror above her fireplace. They taught me that much, at least, how to smile through pain. The papers in my hands held more than just evidence of their betrayal. They held the seeds of their destruction. And I intended to plant them carefully, water them with tears, and watch them grow into something that would shatter their carefully constructed new life just as thoroughly as they'd shattered mine. The storage unit door groaned open, revealing 21 years of carefully curated lies. Mother's meticulous labeling system made it easy to find what I was looking for: Boxes marked family documents and financial records stood in neat rows against the back wall. I'd found the key in Father's old desk drawer, along with a receipt for a year's prepaid rent on this unit. They'd planned to keep these secrets locked away, probably hoping I'd never think to look here. "You shouldn't be doing this alone," Ethan said from behind me. After a week of avoiding him, I'd finally called. Some truths needed a witness. "I need to know everything." I pulled out the first box, dust coating my fingers. "Help me or leave." He answered by grabbing another box. The first files revealed nothing surprising: old tax returns, insurance policies. But deeper in the second box, I found it, a folder labeled Singapore Initiative 2019. 2 years of planning, documented in excruciating detail. "Look at this," I said, holding up a series of emails. "They started transferring money offshore before I even graduated high school." Ethan read over my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. They were setting up shell companies. And here's the best part. I pulled out a familiar document. "Remember when they convinced me to sign over my college fund to better manage it? They used it as seed money for their Singapore venture." "That's theft," Ethan said quietly. "That's family," I corrected, bitter laughter bubbling up. At least, their version of it. My phone buzzed, another message from Mother. They'd been alternating between threats and guilt trips since discovering Grandma Evelyn's plan to change her will. "They're getting desperate," I murmured, showing Ethan the message. "Listen to this. Your grandmother's mental state is questionable. We're only trying to protect the family legacy." "Protect it for themselves, you mean?" A flash of color caught my eye. A red leather diary wedged between files. Mother's handwriting filled its pages, dating back 3 years. Oh, God. My hands shook as I read. They never planned to tell me in person. There's a letter here they wrote, explaining everything. They were going to mail it after they left. Ethan's arm wrapped around my shoulders. "Amelia. Wait, there's more." I flipped through the pages. "They've been monitoring my bank accounts, my phone records. They knew about my medical school acceptance 2 weeks ago. They read my emails." "That's why they rushed their departure," Ethan realized. "They knew you'd want their support during medical school." The storage unit's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I absorbed this new betrayal. Every headache-inducing flicker matched the pulse of rage building behind my eyes. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Derek this time. "Your parents are filing for conservatorship over your grandmother. They're claiming she's being manipulated." The diary fell from my numb fingers. "They're trying to take control of her assets before she can change her will." "They won't succeed," Ethan said firmly. "We have evidence of their planning, their financial manipulation. Evidence they never thought I'd find." I gestured at the storage unit. "They're getting sloppy, desperate." A new message lit up my phone. From Sophie, my cousin. "Mom and Dad are fighting about you. Dad says what Aunt Karen and Uncle Mark did was wrong, but Mom's taking their side. Things are getting ugly." I looked at the scattered documents around us. Proof of years of calculated betrayal. "They're not just destroying our family," I said slowly. "They're forcing everyone to choose sides." "What are you gonna do?" I picked up Mother's diary, its pages heavy with secrets. They taught me well, how to plan, how to wait, how to strike where it hurts most. I met Ethan's concerned gaze. They just never thought I'd use those lessons against them. "Amelia, revenge won't heal this." "No," I agreed, tucking the diary into my bag. "But it might prevent them from hurting anyone else. They're trying to take everything from Grandma Evelyn now. Who's next?" The storage unit's door slammed shut behind us, the sound echoing like a judge's gavel. In my bag, the diary pressed against my side, a weapon loaded with their own words, their own confessions. They'd taught me another lesson, too. Family secrets make the best ammunition. The engagement ring caught the morning light as I twisted it around my finger. Ethan had proposed last night, after weeks of careful planning. It should have been the happiest moment of my life. Instead, I sat in Grandma Evelyn's lawyer's office, watching my world tilt on its axis once again. "Your parents' legal team has filed an emergency petition," Mr. Chen said, sliding documents across his desk. They're claiming elder abuse and undue influence. Evelyn's hand found mine under the table. They won't succeed. They don't need to succeed, I said, the realization hitting me like ice water. They just need to drag this out long enough to drain your resources. There's more. Mr. Chen's expression tightened. They've submitted evidence suggesting you've been manipulating your grandmother's medication schedule to affect her decision-making capacity. The room spun slightly. That's impossible. I've never... They have pharmacy records, he interrupted gently, showing irregular refill patterns over the past month. Evelyn's grip tightened. That's because I switched pharmacies. They're also claiming financial exploitation. He tapped another document. Large withdrawals from your accounts coinciding with visits to your grandmother. My engagement ring felt suddenly heavy. The withdrawals were for the medical school deposit, and Ethan's ring. They're building a narrative, Mr. Chen explained. One that paints you as an opportunistic granddaughter taking advantage of a vulnerable elderly woman. The irony burned like acid. While they're the ones trying to seize control of her assets. My phone buzzed. Aunt Lily. We need to talk. Derek's found something. They're not just attacking me anymore, I said, standing. They're trying to destroy my future. Medical school, my engagement, my relationship with Grandma. They want to take it all. Amelia. Evelyn's voice carried a warning. Don't let anger cloud your judgment. No, I agreed, picking up the legal documents. Anger makes things crystal clear. Uncle Derek was waiting at his office, looking more haunted than usual. You need to see this. He pulled up security footage from my parents' medical practice. There I was, entering after hours 2 weeks ago, except I'd never been there. Someone used your old keycard, he explained. They accessed patient files, financial records. Your mother's claiming you stole confidential information. They're framing me. The words tasted like ashes. But who? Sophie. Derek wouldn't meet my eyes. Your mother convinced her it was for your own good, to stop you from making a terrible mistake. My cousin, my friend, another betrayal to add to the growing collection. They're good at this, I said quietly, turning family against family. Not everyone. Derek pulled out a USB drive. I made copies of everything before they could alter the timestamps. And there's something else. Emails between your parents and their Singapore partners dating back 5 years. My phone buzzed again. Ethan, this time. Your parents just called me. They're saying they have proof you've been lying about everything. I looked at my reflection in Derek's office window, at the girl my parents had shaped with their careful lessons in manipulation and control. They'd taught me too well. Tell them you believe them, I said. Tell them you're having doubts about me. What? Why would I? Because we need them to think they're winning. I touched the USB drive in my pocket. They're not the only ones who can play this game. Derek cleared his throat. Amelia, revenge won't give you back what they took. I don't want it back. I met his gaze steadily. I want to build something new. Something they can't touch. But first, I need to make sure they can never hurt anyone else the way they hurt me. My phone lit up with another message. From Mother this time. We're only trying to protect the family legacy. Stop fighting us and we can work something out. I thought of the evidence in my possession, of Sophie's betrayal, of the careful trap they were laying. They expected me to react with anger, to make mistakes, to prove their narrative right. Instead, I would give them exactly what they wanted. A daughter who appeared to be falling apart under pressure. Let them think they were winning. After all, they'd taught me the most important lesson of all. The best revenge is served with a smile. The whispers followed me through the hospital corridors like poison gas. 2 nurses stopped talking when I passed, their eyes sliding away from mine. In the cafeteria, a group of residents huddled over their phones, glancing up at me with poorly concealed interest. I found out why when I checked my email. Someone, Mother, obviously, had sent an anonymous letter to the medical school board questioning my mental stability and ethical fitness. Copies had gone to every major hospital in the region. They're saying you manipulated your grandmother's medical records, Sophie said, appearing beside me like a ghost. And that you're unstable, potentially dangerous to patients. I closed my laptop slowly. Is that why you helped them frame me at the clinic? Because you believe I'm unstable? She flinched. I didn't. They said it was for your own good, that you needed help. Help? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make nearby students turn. Like how they helped me by stealing my college fund? Or by abandoning me on my birthday? That's not... She stopped, twisting her hands. They're saying you've been lying about everything. That you're the one who... Get out! My voice was steady, even as my hands shook. And tell them their plan worked. Everyone's talking about the unstable med student who might snap at any moment. My phone buzzed. Ethan, canceling our dinner plans. Again. His messages had grown increasingly distant since my parents contacted him. Another email arrived, from the medical school board. My admission was under review pending investigation. I walked out of the hospital into the rain, not bothering with an umbrella. The water mixed with tears I refused to acknowledge. Amelia. Uncle Derek stood by my car, holding a folder. You need to see this. Inside were printouts of more emails, my parents coordinating with their lawyers, planning each step of my destruction. They'd anticipated every move, set up every domino perfectly. They're thorough, I said, voice hollow. I'll give them that. There's more. Derek hesitated. They're planning to have Evelyn declared incompetent. They've already lined up doctors willing to testify. My hands crumpled the papers. Of course they have. Mother probably treated their children for free, built up favors over years. You need to stop fighting them, he said quietly. They won't stop until they've destroyed everything you care about. I looked at my reflection in the car window, at the girl they'd created, the one they thought they could control or destroy at will. No. Amelia. They want me to break? I turned to face him. Fine, I'll break. I'll have a very public meltdown. Give them exactly what they want. Let them think they've won. And then? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the evidence I'd gathered. Then I'll show everyone exactly who they really are. Every manipulation, every lie, every betrayal, documented in their own words. They'll never forgive you. Good. I got into my car, because I'll never forgive them either. At home, Grandma Evelyn was waiting with Aunt Lily. Their faces told me they'd heard the news. They're saying terrible things about you, Lily said, reaching for me. I stepped back. They're saying true things about themselves. They just don't know it yet. Revenge won't heal this wound, Evelyn warned. I don't want healing. I pulled out Mother's diary, the USB drive, the emails. I want justice, and I want them to feel what I felt, watching everything they built crumble around them. My phone lit up with another message, from Mother. Stop this now, and we can still fix things. You're only hurting yourself. I thought of the medical school board, of Ethan's growing distance, of Sophie's betrayal. They were right, I was hurting. But pain, I'd learned, could be weaponized. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I told Evelyn and Lily. The unstable daughter, the family scandal, the public meltdown, and when they're celebrating their victory, when they think they've finally broken me completely. I left the sentence unfinished, but I could see in their eyes that they understood. Sometimes the only way to win against masters of manipulation is to play their game better than they do, and they'd taught me so very well. The annual family charity gala became my stage for destruction. Mother and father had flown back specifically for this event. Their reputation demanded it. They'd spent 20 years building their image in this community, and I was about to tear it down in 20 minutes. I wore red, their favorite color for special occasions, the dress they'd bought me for my college graduation before they'd decided I was disposable. Ethan stood across the room, deliberately avoiding my eyes. He'd chosen his side. You shouldn't be here, Sophie whispered as I passed. Everyone's talking about your condition. That's the point. I smiled, the expression sharp enough to make her step back. Mother held court near the stage, elegant in black silk, while father worked the room with practiced charm. They'd orchestrated everything perfectly, the sympathetic whispers about their troubled daughter, the concerned glances, the carefully crafted narrative of parents trying to protect their unstable child. Ladies and gentlemen, the event coordinator announced, we'll now hear from Dr. Karen about this year's charitable initiatives. Mother approached the podium, radiating professional warmth. I moved closer, USB drive heavy in my clutch. Before we begin, I called out, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room, I think we should discuss a different kind of charity. The kind that involves stealing from your daughter and abandoning her on her birthday. The silence turned sharp. Mother's smile didn't waver. Amelia, sweetheart, this isn't the time or place for... It's exactly the time. I pulled out my phone, connecting it to the presentation system. Let's talk about offshore accounts, about forged documents, about 20 years of calculated manipulation. Father appeared at my elbow, gripped tight on my arm. You're making a scene. No, I corrected, shaking free. I'm telling the truth. Finally. The first email appeared on the screen, Mother discussing their escape plans years ago, then bank statements, legal documents, their carefully documented betrayal displayed in high definition. She's unwell, Mother announced to the crowd, voice thick with manufactured concern. We've tried to keep this private, but... Private? I laughed. Like how you privately drained my college fund? Or privately planned to have Grandma Evelyn declared incompetent? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw Uncle Derek move toward the exit. Aunt Lily's hand pressed to her mouth. Sophie's face pale with recognition. Then everything went dark. The backup generators kicked in, but the damage was done. My evidence vanished with the power. Father stood by the electrical panel, key in hand. This is exactly what we've been worried about, Mother said smoothly. These paranoid delusions, these public outbursts. Security approached, summoned by Father's discreet signal. I saw Ethan turn away, unable to watch. You taught me too well, I said as they reached for me. About manipulation, about control, about destroying people while looking like the victim. I learned from the best. Take her out quietly, Father instructed. She's clearly having another episode. The crowd parted as security led me away, their faces a blur of pity and secondhand embarrassment, exactly as my parents had planned, their unstable daughter finally breaking down publicly, proving everything they'd been saying. Outside, the night air hit like a slap. My phone buzzed. Grandma Evelyn. They're on their way to my house with the doctors. I'm sorry, dear one. I couldn't stop them. Another message followed, from the medical school board. My admission wasn't just under review anymore. It had been revoked. I sank onto the steps, the concrete cold through my dress. They'd won. Every carefully laid plan, every piece of evidence, every attempt at justice, destroyed by a simple power switch and years of carefully cultivated influence. A shadow fell over me. Uncle Derek stood there, face grim. They're having Evelyn committed tonight. They've already filed the emergency papers. It's over, I whispered, the fight draining out of me. They've taken everything. Not everything. He held out a phone. Not mine, but one I recognized from the storage unit. Mother's old device, the one she'd replaced before leaving. What? They taught you about manipulation, he said quietly, but they forgot about backup plans. Your grandmother wasn't the only one recording everything. I took the phone, its weight familiar yet different. Not evidence of their betrayal this time, but proof of their destruction. Sometimes you have to lose everything to see clearly what you need to do next. And I could finally see. The hospital boardroom felt like a courtroom, with Mother and Father seated on one side, their lawyers flanking them like guards. Grandma Evelyn sat beside me, her hand steady on my arm despite the doctors they'd brought to testify about her condition. I placed Mother's old phone on the table. Before we begin this competency hearing, there's something everyone needs to see. More fabricated evidence? Mother's smile was pristine, practiced. Sweetheart, you're only making things worse for yourself. I pressed play. Mother's voice filled the room, not her public voice, but the cold one I remembered from that birthday night. The video showed her and Father in their study, dated 3 years ago, discussing their plans in detail. The Singapore deal is almost final, Father said on screen. We just need to move the assets quietly, the girls' college fund first, then the offshore accounts. And Evelyn? Mother asked. Once we're established overseas, we'll have her declared incompetent. Everything transfers to us as next of kin. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Mother's lawyer started to speak, but I wasn't finished. There's more. I switched to a more recent recording. Mother talking to her doctors, arranging false testimony about Evelyn's mental state. Then emails detailing their plans to destroy my medical school prospects. These recordings are inadmissible, their lawyer protested, obtained without consent. By your own phone, I cut in, looking at Mother. The one you thought you'd wiped clean before replacing it. The one that kept backing up to your cloud account because you never changed the settings. Father's facade cracked first. You had no right... Like you had no right to steal my future? My voice stayed steady. To plan my grandmother's imprisonment while pretending to care about her welfare? Everything we did, Mother began, her professional mask slipping, was for the good of... Your Singapore dreams? Evelyn's voice carried unexpected steel. Your offshore accounts? Tell me, Karen, when did you decide your own daughter was worth less than your ambitions? The boardroom door opened. Uncle Derek entered with 2 police officers and a man in a suit. Miss Thompson? The suit approached. I'm with the Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to ask your parents some questions about certain irregular transactions and potential elder abuse allegations. Mother's perfect mask shattered. You wouldn't dare. After everything we've done for you. Done for me? I stood, finally letting the rage show. You stole from me, abandoned me, tried to destroy everything I cared about. And when that wasn't enough, you tried to lock away the only person who ever truly protected me. We were protecting you from yourself, Father insisted, but his eyes were on the officers. No, I gathered the evidence files. You were protecting yourselves, and you taught me exactly how to do the same thing. The next hour passed in a blur of statements and signatures. Mother and Father were led away for questioning, their lawyers scrambling to damage control. The competency hearing was dismissed, Evelyn's rights fully restored. You did it, Sophie whispered from the doorway. She'd slipped in during the chaos. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I looked at my parents through the boardroom windows as they were escorted out. They'd taught me everything about power and control, about maintaining perfect facades while destroying lives. They just never expected me to learn those lessons so well. Amelia, Evelyn said softly, it's over. But it wasn't. Not really. Because in destroying them, I'd become what they made me. Someone capable of methodically dismantling others' lives. The victory tasted like ashes. My phone buzzed. Ethan. I saw the news. Can we talk? What will you do now? Derek asked, gathering the evidence files. I watched Mother and Father disappear into separate police cars, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them. They'd wanted to write me out of their story, but instead, I'd become its author. Now, I picked up Mother's phone, the instrument of their destruction. Now I learn how to write my own story, one that doesn't end in revenge. Because they'd taught me one final lesson. Victory and healing aren't always the same thing, and I had to choose which one I wanted more. The courthouse steps felt different under my feet as I left the sentencing hearing. Mother and Father's faces had remained stoic as the judge detailed their financial crimes, but I caught the slight tremor in Mother's hand, the tightness around Father's eyes. Their perfect masks finally cracking. You didn't have to come today, Ethan said, waiting beside his car. Yes, I did. I handed him the envelope I'd been carrying. My medical school acceptance letter. The board reversed their decision after reviewing the evidence. His smile was warm, genuine. You're going to be an amazing doctor. Like mother, like daughter. The words tasted different now, less bitter. At Grandma Evelyn's house, Sophie waited on the porch, uncertainty in every line of her body. We hadn't spoken since the hospital boardroom. I brought your old photos, she said, holding out a shoebox. The ones from when we were kids, before everything. Inside were memories captured in fading color, birthday parties, family vacations, moments when the smiles might have been real. Or maybe we'd all just gotten better at pretending. They weren't always like this, Sophie whispered, were they? No. I touched a photo of Mother teaching me to ride a bike. They were exactly like this. perfect on the surface, hollow underneath. We just didn't know how to see it then. Evelyn's voice carried from inside, where she was talking to Uncle Derek about the foundation we'd started, supporting children of parental abandonment, using my parents' seized assets to heal what they'd broken in others. The Singapore property's sold, Derek reported, joining us. The money's been transferred to the foundation's account. I nodded, thinking of the empire my parents had tried to build on stolen dreams and broken trust. Now it would build something else entirely. There's something you should see, Evelyn said, holding out a letter. I found it in your mother's old medical school yearbook. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting achingly familiar, my grandmother's, decades younger. A letter to my mother, full of warnings about ambition's cost, about the price of putting success above love. She'd seen it coming, even then. She never read it, Evelyn said softly. I couldn't save her from becoming what she feared most. But you saved yourself. Did I? I looked at the foundation paperwork spread across her table. Or did I just learn to destroy more efficiently? You learn to heal, Ethan corrected, taking my hand. Starting with yourself. The engagement ring caught the light, no longer feeling like a weight. We'd postponed the wedding during the trial, but now... I have something for you, Sophie said, pulling another envelope from her bag. Letters, from your parents, written in custody, before sentencing. I haven't read them. I took the envelope but didn't open it. Some words couldn't fix what was broken, and some breaks needed to stay that way to heal properly. The foundation's first fundraiser is next week, I said instead. We're helping 3 students who lost their college funds to parental fraud. Like mother, like daughter, Sophie echoed my earlier words, but with a different meaning. You're building something from what they destroyed. Later, alone in my apartment, I finally opened my parents' letters. Their words were what I expected, justifications wrapped in apologies, manipulations hidden in declarations of love. But they didn't have power anymore. My phone buzzed with a message from the medical school board. My first rotation would be in pediatrics, helping children heal, protecting them from harm, building something new from the lessons of the past. I placed my parents' letters in the shoebox with the old photos. Not to forget, but to remember differently. They'd taught me everything about power, control, and destruction. But they'd also taught me, unwittingly, about resilience, healing, and the strength to choose a different path. The foundation paperwork waited on my desk, next month's cases ready for review. 3 more families to help, 3 more stories to change. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction at all. It's creation, building something beautiful from the ashes of what was lost. And I was just getting started.